The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
It is election day, and what a show we have for you today. Later, I will be giving you my electoral map and results predictions. Very long. I'll put a long time into it yesterday, and I went back and forth on a few states, but we've gotten to what's going to be my final prediction a little bit later in the show. Today's election will be historic, no matter who wins. And you had better not be staying home and not voting if you didn't already vote. And of course, at minimum, it seems 30 or 35 or even more % of the electorate has already voted in this election. Now, if Hillary Clinton wins, she will be the first female president in the United States. We have a population that is more than 50% made up of women. We have had 227 years of presidents since George Washington was elected in 1789, and 227 years of male presidents. It would be a major accomplishment for Hillary Clinton to become the next president of the United States. Now, at the more micro level, at the sort of 80-year level, rather than the 227-year level, a Hillary Clinton win would mark the beginning of 3 consecutive Democratic presidential terms for the first time since the period from 1933 to 1953, when Franklin D. Roosevelt and Harry Truman consecutively served for 20 years of Democratic presidents in the White House. If Hillary Clinton wins tonight, it's not a party because she's so progressive. It's a relief. And that gets me to Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wins tonight, it would also be historic in that it would represent a new low for the American electorate. It would set the lowest bar we've ever seen for how incompetent a candidate can be, for how incompetent the candidate's voters, mostly Republican voters, can be in electing someone so incompetent, and it might happen. Remember that former producer Lewis had his 80% of people are incompetent assertion, which many in our audience liked, but many in our audience, quite frankly, also found it pretty offensive. You can win an election with way under 80% of the vote, particularly since turnout is so low. Back in 2012, turnout was 57.5%. And if you need 50% plus 1 vote to win, not exactly, right, because of the Electoral College, but for the sake of this thought experiment, you can win with just over 28% of American adults voting for you. And there are definitely 28% of Americans that are totally clueless and misguided. That's a reality, Pat, and we've seen it this election. This is a very real thing.
Yeah, elections can be decided by very thin margins. In 2008, Barack Obama won North Carolina by an average of 2 votes per precinct.
Right.
And of course, you can point to 2000, where the vote was decided by 538 ballots cast in Florida.
A Trump win would also mark a new low or a new high, depending on how you think about it, in the anti-intellectualist movement that has gained strength in the United States. You can go back and find anti-intellectualism in the U.S. all the way back to the early colonial era. But modern American anti-intellectualism really was created by 19th century popular culture, and it has grown since. And a Donald Trump win would really be the culmination of that, right? Cheering and celebrating being clueless, championing being offensive merely for the sake of being offensive. Now, I won't tell you that if you don't vote, you can't complain. That's silly. Sometimes you hear people say, hey, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. Now, you can complain whether you vote or not. You can have an opinion on war, whether or not you served in the military. You can have a point of view on gay rights, whether you're gay or straight or whatever you are, right? That's not what this is about. This is about today as a turning point where we can either stay the course with an admittedly disappointing centrism and neoliberal foreign policy and plutocratic economics that are the sort of modern Democratic Party. That's not great. Or we can turn around and really make the United States the laughingstock of the world, right? If you thought that world opinion of the U.S. was bad under George W. Bush, just wait until President Donald Trump is sworn in. And this is not at all about whether you prefer Hillary or Trump's view on Middle East dictatorships and how the U.S. should or shouldn't intervene. That's important if both candidates had an idea about it, but Trump doesn't. This is not about whether you want the top marginal tax rate to be 28 or 32 or 36 or 52 or whatever. This is about whether the United States becomes a joke with a clueless madman in its highest elected office. This is also, Pat, not about false optimism, right? But it can't be about we are terrible. The Trump campaign has been everything is a disaster in the U.S. And it's true that situations are not good for everybody. Situations are currently not good for way too many people in this country, and we need to continue to work on that. But things are objectively, undeniably better than when President Obama took office. And the flat out, I know Make America Great Again sounds positive, but it's really a negative campaign, which is America's not great and everything is terrible. And that's just not true right now.
And I get it. I mean, these are the two most unpopular presidential candidates in our history, so it seems. But you're voting not just for a president, you're also voting for the entire executive branch of government, which includes the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense that
cabinet
portrays our view around the world. And it's going to affect the Supreme Court as well.
Yeah, Supreme Court. And we're talking about Rudy Giuliani and Gingrich in Trump's cabinet. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, please, this is a disaster. And by every measure, the economy is doing better than it was 8 years ago. Does everybody have a job? No, but unemployment is way down. We've seen record job creation. Challenges remain. Technological unemployment will be a problem. Wages are a problem. But we are way better off on the whole than we were 8 years ago. Healthcare. Millions more people have some healthcare now. Are premium increases a problem? Absolutely. Is that exclusively President Obama's fault or the fault of Obamacare? No. The problem of premium increases to health insurance predates President Obama by a few decades. I don't know if you're aware of that. Has the U.S. standing around the world improved, as Pat is talking about? The persona that is portrayed by the president and their cabinet, drastic improvement since George W. Bush left office. Is it good that we are not totally uninvolved, but have significantly scaled down two major military engagements in Iraq and Afghanistan? You better believe it. Donald Trump's message is that everything is terrible. He knows better than everyone. He knows better than the senators. He knows better than the generals. He knows better than the economists. He knows exactly how to fix it. And it's all so bad. And that's just not true. Hillary Clinton's message, although obviously for political reasons, it has to be positive because it's built on the Obama legacy that she's talking about and is a part of as the former Secretary of State. It's sending the message that there are problems, but America doesn't need to be made great again because it's improved so much over the last 8 years. History will be made tonight. And I hope, Pat, that it's not the kind we don't want to be making, where we become the laughing stock of the world once again. And I have to repeat this. Remember how silly the United States looked with George W. Bush as its president. That is nothing compared to what it will be if Donald Trump is president of the United States.
Right. I'm of the opinion that the country is greater than it's ever been, and we're in a much better position than we were 8 years ago. So I would hope to see a Hillary Clinton win.
And for people who say that we are worse off now in total than we were 8 years ago, show me the numbers and don't come to me with, oh, the labor participation rate conspiracy theories, which don't account for counting, high school seniors as unemployed and don't account for the baby boomer retirement generation. I mean, really, come to me with data about how we are worse off today as a country than we were 8 years ago, and then we can actually have a conversation. Now, I'm going to give you later on my final election prediction for 2016, but I have a couple of other things I want to talk about before we get to that. When we talk about the case against Donald Trump, much of it is about Donald Trump specifically, and it's about Donald Trump policy and Donald Trump cluelessness and Donald Trump incompetence and just lack of fitness, temperamentally unfit to be president of the United States. But a big part of the danger of a Donald Trump presidency is not only that it would make the United States a laughingstock around the world, but it's a danger in terms of the people and actions that it would embolden. And we have to look no further than a video recorded by Memphis man Brandon Liston, who goes by Sky Lev on the internet. He was involved in a road rage incident, which resulted in him being on the receiving end of a just violent racist rant, including the N-word and so many other things like Black Lives Don't Matter. The man you're going to see in this video that I'm going to play audio and video from has been identified as Neil Thompson, and Lev explained that Neil Thompson wouldn't let him pass while driving. The man claims Lev was speeding around him and forced him to slam on his brakes. No surprise, a road rage incident where there are drastically different stories about who was doing what. What we don't have different stories about, fortunately because we have video, is what happened when the two men pulled over and Lev took out his phone to record the other man coming up and approaching him. You are going to hear some pretty horrible language in this video. I'm going to play just a little bit of it for you. This video has been going viral. It is rancid. It is disgusting. It is a Trump supporter. And this is exactly the type of behavior that is emboldened by Donald Trump. Let's take a look.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, now I'm a buddy.
Hey, Trump. Trump all the way. Trump.
Hey,
check this out. Hey, check it out. No, I got you. Because Black lives don't matter. There ain't no proof. Just because you say something don't mean nothing.
Wow.
Prove it.
I appreciate.
Hey, check it out. If Black lives matter, hey, I'm talking for you. I appreciate it. I gladly appreciate it, sir. Yeah, glad.
So Black lives don't matter because you got a problem in traffic.
No, Black lives don't matter. No, the problem in traffic was you were right behind me, sped up and drove around me, jumped in front of me, and made me slam on my brakes at a light. That makes you a nigger. Oh. That proves, check it out, that proves that Black lives don't matter. Hey, no. If you have a side, if you have a subject, you tell me why Black lives matter. Because people say so? You tell me why, how. You know what matter means? Is something makes a difference. And let me tell you something. Hey, check it out. Martin Luther King.
Black lives didn't matter. Black lives didn't matter.
Hey, Martin Luther King died for a purpose. And you know what? You need to watch the very first episode of Boondocks, because he walks around ashamed of the people with the flat bill hats like you and the people that can't even keep their pants up.
Really?
Yeah, you put it on Facebook. I don't care. I don't care. Look at me. You're a punk that lives off social media. I don't even have a social media account. You know why? Because white lives matter.
Do that. I appreciate you sharing me your life story, sir.
What life story? Hey, let me handle this. Be a woman.
Oof.
What was my life history? Was there anything of anybody's past? Or are you just another nigger that doesn't understand anything?
Apparently you teach me about
I'll teach you anything. I'll teach you anything.
Teach me a little bit more about black people.
Black people were bought by a contract, and we got ripped off because y'all should have got returned when there was evidence and proof that y'all couldn't do anything. So because y'all live off welfare. No. Let me answer your question, nigga.
What makes you think I'm a black person?
Because you look like and you drive like a nigger. That's why.
So uncomfortable to watch. And hey, did you notice him saying to the woman in his car, hey, let me handle this, be a woman? Is anybody shocked that the racist guy is also a flaming misogynist? I'm not. I mean, I think it pretty much correlates, doesn't it?
Right. I mean, it's very disturbing to watch.
Yeah.
We should point out that, of course, this is not even close to the majority of Trump supporters.
Sure.
But the Republican Party has been dealing with racism for a long time, ever since LBJ signed the South away in the 60s.
Yep.
And it's a problem that persists, and we see it in this.
And I'm more worried by those emboldened by a Trump presidency than the Trump presidency itself, as horrible as that would be. Also, later on in the video, we don't have time for the entire rant, but he also started referring to the driver as a transgender fag, so transphobic and homophobic. This is basically deplorable Trump supporter bingo, and this guy is a parody of himself. It's almost like he's trying to prove how insane he is. And if Trump wins, these deplorables will be coalesced and catalyzed and emboldened even more than they've been merely by Trump's presidency. And this garbage is going to escalate for 4 years. Now, one of Thompson's neighbors said something like, oh, he's a great neighbor, and I like him, and, you know, he's not, I don't know that he's actually racist, or basically just defended all this. Well, it's great that at least his neighbor thinks that he's a nice guy, right? Did this happen, Pat, because of economic anxieties and trade deals that Donald Trump is going to fix? I mean, is that why this guy supports Trump? Because this tirade was caused by NAFTA or something like that? Or is this just one of those deplorables that we keep hearing about?
No, it comes from the rhetoric that you hear at Trump rallies, and there are actual policies that Donald Trump would put forward that would put this into act. I mean, you can look at the Muslim ban that he proposes.
Sure. Which I guess is
people
canceled
against
now.
each other.
Yeah, maybe that's canceled, or I guess the wall. But maybe the wall's canceled too. Who knows what the Trump policies are? I mean, it's election day. We have no idea what Trump's actual proposals are at this point, other than he'll put good people around himself, which we know he couldn't do during the campaign, and he will figure it out later, which we know that he hasn't been able to do with his campaign either. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're going to have a lot of if Donald Trump wins tonight. Let's take a break. I'm on Twitter at dpacman. Next, my prediction for what will happen tonight in the election.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Today's new member of the day on a very special day, Election Day 2016, is Charisse Campbell. Charisse, thank you so much for being a David Pakman Show member. Join Charisse and sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. Lots of great member benefits. And of course, at davidpakman.com/calendar17, you can get the 2017 David Pakman Show calendar, comic book themed, for free with a yearly membership. It is election day, and it is time for my prediction in terms of the electoral map and electoral vote count. Remember that last election, I was 100% correct in my electoral map prediction. Doesn't mean anything about today, but I want to dive into it with you. So let's take a look at the map. Let's first talk about what is not up for grabs, right? And we will start with Hillary Clinton's base. Hillary Clinton's base I have at 259 electoral votes, and this includes the West Coast and Hawaii. This includes New Mexico. This includes Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. And I'm including Michigan in Hillary Clinton's base. I know that both campaigns have been there over the last week, and that there is the suggestion that it is in play. I believe that Michigan will go decidedly to Hillary Clinton, and it will not be in play. Basically, most of the Northeast, right? I mean, that we've got Vermont, New York, and Massachusetts, Connecticut and Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. as Hillary Clinton's base. I am putting Pennsylvania in the Hillary Clinton camp. Pennsylvania has not gone to a Republican for a very long time. I do not believe Donald Trump is going to be the first Republican in a very long time to win Pennsylvania. And then we have Virginia, where Donald Trump has left altogether. Let me talk briefly about Maine. Maine splits its electoral votes. There are 2 districts in Maine. You get 2 electoral votes for winning the popular vote in Maine, and then 1 electoral vote for each of 2 districts. Currently, there is 1 district, or in other words, 1 electoral vote in Maine, where it is about 50-50, maybe slightly favoring Donald Trump. So I am giving Hillary Clinton 3 of Maine's 4 electoral votes as her base, and leaving 1 up for grabs. This is the starting point for Hillary Clinton, which is very strong, Pat. We are starting with 259 electoral votes for Hillary Clinton when she only needs 270 to win.
Right, I would definitely agree with you here. I mean, the Trump campaign would argue that more of these states are in play, like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Virginia, but the polls just do not show that at this point.
Let's now start to fill in Donald Trump's base. What is not in play for Donald Trump? Well, certainly West Virginia and South Carolina. Georgia is going to go to Trump, as is Alabama and as is Mississippi. Tennessee will go to Trump. Kentucky is going to go to Trump. Indiana will go to Trump. Missouri will go to Trump, as will Arkansas, Louisiana, both of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, the big Republican prize, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, and Arizona, I believe, will end up for Donald Trump. So before we even get started, we sort of realize that we're starting with 259 electoral votes for Hillary Clinton and 188 for Donald Trump, leaving 91 electoral votes up for grabs. So now is where it starts to get interesting for Hillary Clinton, because if we start playing with some of the numbers, if Hillary Clinton wins Florida, it's over. 288, it does not matter what else Donald Trump wins. Another scenario, Hillary Clinton could take New Hampshire and Colorado, and it's over. because that's 272 electoral votes. It wouldn't matter whether Trump gets Ohio and North Carolina and Florida or whatever else. Now, maybe we're going to play it more optimistically for Donald Trump, where he takes New Hampshire, as well as that extra electoral vote from Maine, and he takes Ohio, and he takes Iowa, and he takes Nevada. Even in that scenario, if Hillary Clinton just wins either North Carolina or Florida, she also wins. And if you eliminate Florida and give that to Trump, Hillary Clinton could also win by taking Colorado and New Hampshire. That would get her there. And we're not even talking about North Carolina, which I believe will ultimately go to Hillary Clinton. Now, as of right now, Pat, Hillary Clinton is ahead in Colorado and New Mexico. It's not at the 80% likelihood threshold. And of course, we're going to give Alaska to Donald Trump. But it is very likely Hillary Clinton is going to win Colorado and New Mexico. So I believe that ultimately this is going to come down to essentially 4 or 5 states. And those are the ones that I want to focus on right now. I think that this is going to come down to Ohio, North Carolina, Florida. Nevada may ultimately go for Clinton, and in the scenario on the screen right now would put Hillary Clinton over the edge at 274. But it is an uphill climb for Donald Trump tonight electorally.
It seems like Nevada is one of the biggest toss-ups in this whole election. Of course, the numbers will start pulling in at around 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we'll see New Hampshire, that extra congressional district in Maine. Those will sort of be the bellwethers, and that's what's going to give us a big picture of what's going to happen tonight.
Unless it's really close, right? Because there is a possibility where if you look at the early states, and I'm going to go through this chronologically in a second, New Hampshire and Florida at 7 p.m. is when they close. But if it's very close, we probably won't get a call on those. And that's where things can get tricky when you look at the closing times. North Carolina at 7:30 is another one where if it's close, it's a big deal, but we may not actually see the results. So let's now clear the map completely. And we will go to a blank map. And let's talk through how I believe the evening is going to go and in terms of when we will know. Now, I'm going to go by when we will know, not necessarily when it will be called. And because of this, before we even start, I'm going to fill in the West Coast and Hawaii as blue because we know that that's how they're going to go. These are states where Hillary Clinton has a 99% or greater chance of winning, and those don't close until later in the night. So while they officially won't be closing, we know what's going to happen there. And as we do our live coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. Eastern tonight, I'm very comfortable, Pat, with filling in the West Coast and Hawaii blue before we even start, because that's how it's going to go.
And if you're watching other news channels, they're not going to give Hillary that 80 or so electoral college advantage. That's not going to show up in her tally. But we know for sure that she's going to win those 4 states. So
let's start with 6 o'clock where Indiana closes. I think it's a partial closure for Indiana, but it doesn't matter. Indiana and Kentucky are going to go to Donald Trump. At 7 p.m., we are going to see Vermont go to Hillary Clinton. We are going to see Virginia go to Hillary Clinton. We will see South Carolina and Georgia go to Donald Trump. And here's where it starts to get tricky. I believe that ultimately New Hampshire and Florida are going to go to Hillary Clinton. We may not get that announcement because it may be close, but I'm going to color them in the way I think that they will end up. At 7:30, West Virginia closes, and that will go to Donald Trump. North Carolina closes. I believe ultimately Hillary Clinton will win there. And Ohio closes, which I am putting in the Trump side. At 8 o'clock, Maine will close. I am going to give Maine proper the 3 electoral votes to Hillary Clinton, and I'm going to give Trump that 1 electoral vote in Maine. It's about 52 to 48 right now in favor of Trump. It hasn't split, I don't know for how long, and it hasn't gone Republican since 1988. But just to do it, let's give that to Donald Trump. What do you think?
I would agree. Nebraska is also a state that divides its vote by congressional district. And in 2008, the Omaha district went for Obama. That could be in play as well here, but I think 3 out of 4 Maine votes going to Hillary Clinton and the remaining 1 going to Trump.
Also tonight at 8 o'clock, we will see Massachusetts go for Hillary Clinton. We will see Rhode Island go for Hillary Clinton, as well as Connecticut. Pennsylvania is going to go for Hillary Clinton. New Jersey will go Clinton. Delaware will go Clinton, as will Maryland and Washington, D.C. Michigan, in spite of what you've been hearing, will go for Hillary Clinton. Illinois is a shoo-in for Hillary. Tennessee will go to Donald Trump, as will Mississippi and Alabama and Missouri and North Dakota and South Dakota and Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas. So as of 8 o'clock, our map, I predict, will be 253 to 161, barring that it's very close and we don't hear about some of these until later. Any disagreements so far, Pat?
I have no disagreements whatsoever.
8:30, Arkansas will close, and that will go to Donald Trump. And 9 p.m. is when some of the big boys start coming in. At 9 p.m., we will get 29 electoral votes in New York for Hillary Clinton. And that would, according to this map, already put her over the edge. But that's not all, because at 9 o'clock, Wisconsin will close in favor of Hillary Clinton. Minnesota will close in favor of Hillary Clinton. Louisiana will go Trump. Nebraska will go Trump. Wyoming will go Trump. Colorado will go for Hillary Clinton. New Mexico will go for Hillary Clinton. And Arizona, I keep going back and forth on Arizona. I have it in the Trump camp. I think it's possible that Arizona will be closer than some people are saying, but ultimately, I do believe it will go to Donald Trump.
Right. A few weeks ago, when Hillary was far ahead in the polls, they were looking at Arizona, but even then it was still kind of leading Trump. So I think it'll go red again this year.
And if you see this map, this is 9 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, 316 for Hillary Clinton and 194 for Donald Trump. I believe that at 9 p.m., with the exception that Florida may be too close to call and New Hampshire may be too close to call, and it's even possible that Pennsylvania will be too close to call. Only because of that would we not have an answer, but I believe we will know earlier than many people are predicting. Now, at 10 o'clock, we will have Iowa close for Trump. Montana will close for Trump. Idaho will close for Trump. Utah will go to Trump. And here's my sleeper for Hillary Clinton. I believe Hillary Clinton will ultimately take Nevada.
I agree, because early voting is big in Nevada, and there's been a lot of turnout from the Las Vegas area. That was at a time where she was doing much better in the polls over the past couple of weeks. Even though things have tightened up, I'd have to give her the edge.
And lastly, as we started with, Washington, Oregon, and California will officially close at 11 and go for Hillary Clinton, as will Hawaii. And last to close, but not consequential, will be Alaska at midnight Eastern, which will go for Trump. Here is, Pat, my final map, 322 to 216 in favor of Hillary Clinton. Do you disagree on any individual state here?
I can't really point out any single disagreement, but it's very unlikely that the election results are going to go this way, because if you look at any given scenario, it has about a 1% chance of happening.
And that 1% chance I was right about in 2012.
That's true. That's true. And the most likely scenario actually is a 269-269 tie, which would be interesting to see.
Most likely, what do you mean of all scenarios?
Of all scenarios.
Right. But in other words, in total, the most likely scenarios are various scenarios in which Hillary Clinton wins. After tonight, what is the future of the country for the next 4 years? Well, if it's Donald Trump as president tonight, we are going to be seeing lawsuits against media. We are going to be seeing cracking down on independent reporting. We are going to be seeing potentially the holding open of Supreme Court seats, maybe even for years, as we've heard from Donald Trump's fellow Republicans. We are going to need strong, independent media if Donald Trump is the next president of the United States, because corporate media, you are not going to get what you need from corporate media. Now, if Hillary Clinton wins tonight, more than likely, it wouldn't be a further to the right than Obama presidency, but it probably wouldn't be further to the left either unless we activate. And corporate media is not going to do it. Whatever issue is important to you in the next 4 years, whether it's trade, the environment, women's rights, LGBT rights, education, whatever it is going to be influenced by media coverage of that issue over the next 4 years. And whether it's Clinton or Trump, corporate media is not going to be the place for the coverage that progressives actually need. So this is my election day appeal to you. Hopefully we've all voted by now, or will within the next few hours. The next step is we need your support to fund the program over the next 4 years. And the way to do that is through membership. You know that independent media was instrumental in so many of the movements that we have seen go viral over the last year. The entire Bernie Sanders, I would still call it a success, even though he ultimately lost. And look at what ultimately of Bernie Sanders' ideas made it into the Democratic Party platform. Much of that success was because of independent media. Much of the coverage of everything from the Dakota Access Pipeline to, thinking back further, Occupy Wall Street, The real coverage of these issues was not on corporate media. It was on independent media like the David Pakman Show. So I'm asking you today on Election Day, we're talking about a few pennies a day for a lot of great member benefits, including members-only programming. Go to davidpakman.com/membership and sign up. Make the commitment, because whether it's Trump or Clinton, independent media needs to be supported. And because we have this end of the year calendar thing going on, if you want to support the show, I would love to send you a free 2017 David Pakman Show calendar filled with original comic book art from artist and David Pakman Show viewer Dan Burke. Go to davidpakman.com/calendar17, sign up for a yearly membership through that page, and we will send you the calendar for free. Let's start off. We still have until January for the inauguration, but let's start off the next 4 years and 2 months really strongly, properly funding independent media, because corporate media has failed everybody during this campaign. And I'm asking you to make that commitment to the show. Please do. We'll be back after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Our hometown NFL football team, the New England Patriots, have been pulled into the Donald Trump vortex, as I like to refer to it. This is from Donald Trump's final appeal to New Hampshire voters last night. Let's take a look, talking about New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady.
Oh, a couple of things. Two people I have a lot of respect for, really like as people, credible people. And because they're so important to the area, I thought I would give you this information. They've told me I can do it.
Yeah.
So I will do it. Tom Brady. Great guy. Great guy.
Tremendous.
Great guy. Great friend of mine. Great champion. Unbelievable winner. He called today.
Yeah.
And he said, Donald, I support you, you're my friend, and I voted for you. And I want to tell you, this guy is a champ, and he is a winner, and he is a great person.
Yeah, so there was a lot of confusion about this, because yesterday morning, Tom Brady was asked on Boston Morning Radio, have you taken advantage of early voting? And he said, no, I haven't voted yet. And then we saw a few tweets, including one from Yahoo News' Hunter Walker, saying that records show Tom Brady's voter registration is currently inactive and he's not enrolled in a party. But then we found out, as reported by Comcast Sportsnet New England, that that Tom Brady did show up and vote by turning in an absentee ballot, according to the Brookline, Massachusetts town clerk's office. But then there's more confusion, because there was an Instagram post to Tom Brady's wife, Gisele Bundchen, saying, hey, Gisele, I heard you and Tom were backing Trump. Is that true? And she responded with no. So this is all very, very odd. And to be honest, I wish nobody would be dumb enough to be influenced in their vote by who Tom Brady voted for. But sadly, I think there probably are people with that low information where they would say, oh, Tom Brady voted for X or Y, well, then count me in.
Well, it's interesting that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick would be so public about this, too, because they're looked at as champions and heroes in this area, this very blue area of New England. So this would be contradictory to the opinions of most of the people here.
I agree with you. And it also got weird when Donald Trump then read a letter he claimed to be from NFL New England Patriots team coach Bill Belichick, which sounds totally fake, but apparently has since been confirmed by Bill Belichick. Listen to this.
He's a champ. So he sent me the new letter, and it was much better. It was stronger. See, most people don't do that. Most people are the opposite. Oh, gee, I don't want to get involved. This guy is a true champ. So he writes, Coach Belichick, congratulations on a tremendous campaign. You have dealt with an unbelievable, slanted and negative media and have come out beautifully. Beautiful. You've proved to be the ultimate competitor and fighter. Your leadership is amazing.
Ugh.
I have always had tremendous respect for you, but the toughness and perseverance you have displayed over the past year is remarkable. Hopefully tomorrow's election results will give the opportunity to make America great again. Best wishes for great results tomorrow, Bill Belichick. So I just want
Let's put the letter up real quick. I mean, this is one of the stupidest letters. I thought this was definitely fake because it mentions tremendous twice and talks about, make America great again. It looks like the letter Trump would write and say that Bill Belichick wrote. But I guess Bill Belichick really wrote this. It's so bizarre. And my impression of Bill Belichick is drastically destroyed by this because it's such a stupid letter.
And he says that Trump made it out beautifully after all the critiques from the media, which I would have to disagree with.
You're right that anything could have triggered this guy to all of a sudden write a letter to Donald Trump, but it's all very, very stupid. And a few tweets to show you about this. One is from, again, Yahoo News' Hunter Walker, who said he tried calling Belichick to ask about this and that Belichick hung up on him. And then Charlie Pierce from Esquire magazine tweeted, Belichick is known for being a quiet supporter of Democratic politicians and liberal causes. I smell an orange-maned rat behind that letter. Also, the owner of the New England Patriots, Bob Kraft, a known Democrat and liberal. It's all very, very disturbing because I really thought that Bill Belichick, in all aspects of his life, was just a bright and informed guy. And if he did write a letter to Trump using the word tremendous twice, my opinion of Bill Belichick has absolutely changed. And it stinks because I love the Patriots. You know I do, Pat, but this is pretty horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion towards athletes having opinions and sharing them on politics is pretty low.
Yeah.
I don't really care one way or another, but it's really taken charge over the past few years. We now see Colin Kaepernick protesting the national anthem, and this story just keeps coming back in different ways.
Curt Schilling, former Red Sox, who now is saying all sorts of crazy right-wing stuff. I mean, it's just all... It's all a disaster, but I guess, they believe we'll win again if Trump is president. It's sad, I'll tell you that. According to the New York Times, Donald Trump's campaign staff have taken away his Twitter privileges because he is so erratic and self-destructive. The real news should be, how did it take until election week for Donald Trump's campaign staff to take away his Twitter privileges? And apparently, according to the New York Times, Trump is still dictating what is sent out, but Hope Hicks, his spokeswoman, and some other staffers are sort of vetting and editing the tweets. Consider the stuff that Trump has tweeted, right? Recommending sex tapes on Twitter in the middle of the night, insulting countless broadcasters as a waste, liars, unwatchable, etc., insulting everybody on the right from Mitt Romney to even the Conservative Club for Growth, on and on and on. And here's an example of how the Trump staff have modified Trump's tweets. Here's a Trump tweet that actually went out over the last few days, okay? Looking at Air Force One in Miami, why is he campaigning instead of creating jobs and fixing Obamacare? Get back to work for the American people. Apparently, Trump dictated that only as get back to work. But his staffer, Hope Hicks, added, get back to work for the American people. I'm hoping, Pat, that there's lots of other tweets that Trump yelled out that were just kiboshed altogether, because that's a really sort of innocuous and small change given the disasters that Trump is regularly tweeting.
Well, that one in particular seems to suggest that Obama campaigning isn't working.
Right.
He is working. He's trying to cement his legacy for the next 4 years, because if Donald Trump's elected, he would undo pretty much every executive order, things like Obamacare, that he's put forward.
Yeah, and many of those, I would argue, he's not actually going to be able to undo, but the fact that he thinks he could and would try to is bad enough. And the bottom line on this is, how can the guy who can't control himself on Twitter be president of the United States? Do you want the guy who can't handle social media in the Situation Room? This is insane. I'm not going to redo my rant from the beginning of the show of the importance of not having Donald Trump turn the United States into an even bigger laughingstock than it was under George W. Bush's tenure, during George W. Bush's presidency. I won't redo that. But if you can't handle Twitter, you can't handle the presidency. Let's take a break.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Even at this late hour on Election Day, the lies just will not stop being uncovered from Donald Trump. Donald Trump has claimed not to know or have ever met lots of people that we've later found out he knew or had met. This includes the disabled Wall Street Journal reporter that he mocked, who met him a bunch of times. This includes the former Miss Utah, who accused Trump of sexual assault, claimed never to have met her. Just months ago, though, gave a detailed story of his recollection of having met her. And now a recently uncovered video shows that Donald Trump did know a gambler who was banned from New Jersey casinos for alleged ties to organized crime. This is the reputed mob figure Robert LiButti, who can be seen in the picture we're showing standing alongside Trump in the front row of a 1988 WrestleMania match in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, you could say, okay, well, listen, David, they were standing next to each other, but maybe it had nothing to do with Trump. Maybe they just happened to be at the same wrestling match. Well, no, because according to LiButti's daughter, Edith Creamer, who also attended the event, quote, "We were Trump's guests." The video was given to Yahoo News by a confidential source that discovered it. It appears to again suggest that Trump did have relations with LiButti, which Donald Trump has multiple times denied. As I mentioned, LiButti was banned from the state's casinos in the early 90s because he was connected to mafia boss John Gotti, then the chief of the Gambino crime syndicate. And separately, the New Jersey Casino Control Commission levied a $650,000 fine against the Trump Plaza Hotel because they were dealing with LiButti. Trump campaign spokeswoman Hope Hicks was asked to comment on the video, saying, quote, "This was obviously a massive event, which took place decades ago. Mr. Trump attended many similar events with thousands of people during this time period." But again, LiButti's daughter says they were there specifically as Donald Trump's guests. It's another day, another lie, Pat.
And there's been so many in this campaign, but I would say that the most egregious claim that he made in terms of knowing people he didn't was at a Republican debate when he said that he lost hundreds of friends on 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
When they looked into it, he couldn't even name one.
Yeah, and that's probably the most despicable sort of political pandering lie. This is just, I didn't know the guy and he knew the guy, and it's just doesn't look that good to know this guy. And it goes even further, right? Jack O'Donnell, who's the former president of Trump Plaza, said actually Trump and LiButti did a business deal together. They took a trip together on Trump's private helicopter. They knew each other. They were involved in horse sales purchases, a whole thing. Individually, not a huge deal, but it's that pattern of Trump claiming not to know or having never met various people that he had met, all of whom are really inconvenient to have met in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, 15 plus women accusing Trump of sexual assault is more disturbing than him having known a mob-connected guy that he claimed not to know. But the point is, this is all a facade, and it is all lies. We're going to wrap up today's pre-election show with something really funny. We've been watching Scotty Nell Hughes, a Trump surrogate, on CNN, this entire rancid and despicable and mind-bogglingly stupid presidential campaign. And she really outdid herself a couple of days ago, where she was criticizing the fact that Hillary Clinton allowed Jay-Z to perform at one of her rallies. Hip-hop star Jay-Z performed at a Hillary Clinton rally. And she said it's really bad because Jay-Z features people throwing Mazel Tov cocktails in music videos. What is a Mazel Tov cocktail? I have an idea. Let's take a look at the video.
Also, you look at Jay-Z, and we talked about this that night, that he might be working on it, but one of his main videos starts off with a crowd throwing Mazel Tov cocktails at the police, and this very much anti-police message that they're on.
We have to play that once more, I think. Listen to that. Mazel Tov cocktails.
Also, you look at Jay-Z, and we talked about this that night, that he might be working on it, but one of his main videos starts off with a crowd throwing Mazel Tov cocktails at the police, and this very much anti-police message that they're on.
So, of course, Mazel Tov is the Hebrew phrase for congratulations, confused with a Molotov cocktail. Then she got involved in a Twitter discussion about the entire thing, and she used the expression oy vey, but instead of O-Y-V-E-Y. She spelled it O-Y-E-V-E-Y, which sounds more like Spanish than Hebrew. I figured out what she's talking about. In those videos, you can see Jay-Z mixing Manischewitz wine with a splash of seltzer and dropping in a matzo ball for garnish. That's a Mazel Tov cocktail, and that is really offensive to Scotty Nell Hughes.
Well, you're doing much better damage control than she was able to do. I mean, we do a show every day, and I'm sure you know sometimes what comes out isn't what you mean, but this kind of demonstrates just no understanding of the world at all.
Yeah, I mean, the other day, I almost, talking about the rigged election, almost said the word erection. We almost had to stop the show because Pat could barely keep it together over there, but you managed to do it. You managed to keep going. A Mazel Tov cocktail. This is hilarious. It's just a reminder that even someone as vile as a Trump surrogate as we've seen Scotty Nell Hughes be can make just sort of a funny mistake that's not hugely offensive, but just indicative of her sort of being clueless. What's really off-putting to me about Scotty Nell Hughes is when she shows up on CNN and she defends the indefensible time and again and shows up after Trump is accused of sexually assaulting not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. I'll skip it. Not 17, but something like 18 women at this point. And she has to show up there and issue some kind of a defense of it. That's the really vile and depraved Scotty Nell Hughes who's up there defending this stuff. Mazel Tov cocktail. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, well, we'll give her a pass on this one, I think.
I mean, the election's almost over. I think if at any time we're going to give Scotty Nell Hughes a pass, it's the day before the election for saying Mazel Tov cocktail. Hey, Donald Trump called our voicemail number. The number is 219-2-DAVID-P. He had sort of just a final message before the election.
Hello, David. It's me, Donald. I've been watching your program recently, and I just have to say I really don't appreciate what you've been saying about me. You and your little co-host are a bunch of pussies. And if I weren't so busy right now, I'd grab you guys, maybe even by the pussy, and throw you out of the broadcasting community entirely. You don't know anything about business. I'm a successful businessman. You make terrible deals. You're every bit as crooked as Hillary is. And I want to let you know everything you say about me is wrong. If I do get elected, I'm going to make this country great. We're going to win. We're going to win like we've never won before. I'm going to make really great deals. You don't know how to make deals, David. You have no clue what you're talking about. But I've got to go. So don't say anything bad about me again, including the size of my hands. My hands are very nicely sized hands, David. So good luck, David, and goodbye.
How would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10 this Trump impersonator?
The impression's quite good, and the best part about it is he hit on every single Trumpism there. He must have scripted it out.
Did he say tremendous?
He did. I probably did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he said tremendous. I give this about a 7. I think this is a 7 in terms of a voice Trump impersonation. Very, very funny. No idea who that is. I don't think it's a caller that has called in before, so we couldn't tie it back to like, oh, it's the Eggman or Troy York or Louisiana Troll or Kansas Troll, who, by the way, I don't know what's happened to the Kansas Troll. He hasn't called in for a very, very long time. On the bonus show today, I will tell my early voting story. Pat will tell his early voting story. We will talk about what is going on with voting so far. We will preview live coverage that we will be doing tonight. Once again, live coverage of the election tonight. The goal is 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, just before the 7 o'clock results come in. We will be starting our live coverage. We will give you results at 7 p.m. The plan is to go to Sam Cedar over in Brooklyn, New York at the Majority Report Studios, just blocks from my old apartment in Brooklyn, New York. Check in with him about 7:15. Ben Dixon will be here. It's going to be a whole thing. So please tune in on YouTube Live, youtube.com/The David Pakman Show, starting at, unless something goes wrong, 6:45 p.m. Eastern tonight. Don't miss today's bonus show. And remember, get your 2017 David Pakman Show calendar. This is a beautiful calendar. I don't know that I've ever seen a more beautiful calendar. It's just tremendous. It's an insanely good calendar with art designed by David Pakman Show viewer and artist Dan Burke. You will see all of your favorite David Pakman Show and political characters here, including former producer Lewis. Get the calendar for free at davidpakman.com/calendar17. The goal is 350 calendars. We are at about, I think, 52 or 53 is the last count. Please get your calendars. You can get just the calendar. You can get it signed or not signed. You can get the calendar with a membership if you want. davidpakman.com/calendar17. Free shipping in the United States, no matter where you are. Very exciting. We will talk about that and voting and the election and so much more on the bonus show, which all of our members have instant access to once they sign up. Speak to you then. Go vote.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.